I tried to get your attention.
This is not a really good question I'm starting with. But
You should include that. My character in Christmas in Colombo, I play the father of Shania, the lead character, Chaminda. He's, I would say, a typical, I don't even think it's a cultural thing, any typical father who has girls, who has daughters. I think it's one of those typical characters. How he would react when his baby brings home a new man. So straight off the bat, it's something already very interesting, and you can see a lot of possible humorous moments in there. The only difference in this character, I think, is that he, even though this is a rich family, he doesn't come from much. He had to work his way up, so he's a bit of a mix of social standards, I guess. And the biggest reason that, I mean, even though I'm not a dad, I was interested in the role and I really wanted to do it, is because A, I haven't done a rom-com before, and B, all the romantic comedies that we've seen that has this sort of elements in it, I was always like, hey, I could do that. That would seem interesting if I did it. So this is why I'm here. And so far the journey's been fun, and I think there's lots more fun to be had. I don't think I'm yet proud of anything I've done. So, I mean, there are projects that I have liked, and there are parts I have played in it, parts that I've played that I'd liked. But when I watch it back, there is nothing that I can be 100% proud of. So I'm still looking forward to that day. We'll see. I think the first thing I do is I like to have a sit down with the director first of all, even before I read the script. Usually, ideally, I always think I need to read the script and see the entire journey of the character. But what I realized that I prefer to do is to sit down and have a chat with the director and have him narrate the story to me and see how passionate he is about the story. And if I feel it when he's describing it, then I'll go into the next stage of reading the script. And once I get an idea, and if I like the character and if it is challenging enough, then I try to relate it to who I am all the time. I mean, there are different schools of thought. There have been teachers who've told me, don't do that. But I find it's always easier for me if I relate it to who I am, how I would react in these situations. I feel that brings out more authenticity. That's basically how I start preparing for a role. The biggest influence on my acting career, first of all, I can only call it a career of like 5 years, even though I've been acting since I was a child. I only got into it full-time as a career only since about 2017, I think. And then you remove the Easter year and the 2 COVID years, I think I've only been acting for, 4-5 years. So if I really look at it, I have a lot of favorite actors, right? But they're all favorites in different areas, so I can't really say they've been the biggest influences. The first person to influence me into becoming a person that likes this sort of thing was my mother. Because even before I could speak or read or write, the first thoughts I remember are the stories she used to read to me. So when she reads me a story, basically fairy tales, I would go into those worlds. Before I could read or write, I started thinking in those terms. And that's how my love for performing happened. And so then, on that logic, she has been the single biggest influence on my acting career. So when talking about a most interesting moment or a memory on set, it's hard to pinpoint one because, we've been on so many sets, but there were a couple of times that I almost died, and I think that would probably be the biggest experience as such. And we were shooting in a lagoon. And I had to stay underwater for that shot, but the density was so high that every time I went under, I couldn't stay under long enough, so I was floating back up. So they tied weights to my waist, right? And then I was ready, went down, I was okay. So I came up and I said, I'm good. They called action, I went down. And then a current of water came and I was just pushed back. And what we didn't realize was the lagoon had a slope. And so I kept going back with the weight until my head was underwater. Then I can swim, right? But I couldn't do anything because I was tied down. I put my hand up and I could feel me going further and further. And then when my hand went under, probably about 30 seconds later, I thought, this is it. Like, you know, how you feel like your life is flashing again in front of your eyes. I can't move. And the last bit of breath was out. And we did have life-saving Navy guys around us. They thought it was part of the scene, so they didn't help. At the last moment, when I thought I was done, this Navy guy came under, he held me from the legs and pushed me up. I took a breath, went under again, but then 2 other guys came and brought me ashore. So that was the one time that I almost died. I think that's the most interesting thing that I can share right now.